So, training legs is just like any other terrible experience you may have during the week. If you like them, great. If you love them, okay. And if you hate them, well, hopefully I can convince you to never stop doing them. So here are 5 reasons as to why you should train legs, and then we'll go over 4 different things that you should be aware of in order to get the most gains from your training sessions. So number 1, as we grow old, shit gets weak. We can't escape this. So don't turn into the cliche that just throws his bag twice a year, every single year, by doing random stuff around the house, and take care of yourself. Legs and our lower body represent a large portion of the overall musculature that we have in our bodies. And in order to train them, you will oftentimes revert back to a heavy compound movement. So by training legs decently hard, we can oftentimes check off a bunch of boxes in our training requirements in order to remain strong and athletic throughout the rest of our lives. Number 2 is power. Now this is pretty obvious, but for most people that are blessed enough to be fully able, legs are what we use to get around and move. And if you're involved in any sort of sport that requires any sort of powerful action, which is honestly in most sports, oftentimes all of these movements will originate on the ground. And your legs are what you use in order to put power behind your punches, your swings, your throws, whatever it may be. And it can go beyond that. So if you're a contact athlete or a combat athlete, oftentimes it's not even about how much power you can output, it's about how much power you can also receive and take. So how good are you at cushioning those big hits? Because you won't always be in the perfect position in order to receive a hit. Sometimes you're gonna get caught off guard. Sometimes you simply will not be in a strong position. How do you react to that? How good are you at receiving those big impacts and still remaining healthy? All of that can be done with a good, solid, strong, and stable lower body. Number 3 is that it's hard, and you should do hard shit fairly often. A lot of people obsess about work, putting in long hours in the office, marathon sessions at work, because they believe this is a way of showing how much they truly care and how hard they're willing to work for whatever the goal is. And while this is not necessarily false, if you're doing this at the expense of your health, then you're going to pay the price eventually. Like, there's no getting around that. And here's the deal, you do not have to be a power lifter. You do not have to be an elite level Olympic weightlifter, or an elite level athlete. That is not what we're asking of you. Because at the end of the day, regardless of who you are, there will more than likely always be a stronger person than you at something. So just stay strong for yourself, whatever that means for you. Number 4 is that your legs are what makes you strong. Once again, I'm talking about grounding. And I'm not talking about the esoterical thingy when you walk barefoot around grass or something. I don't know. I'm just talking about standing, okay? There's not much we can do just with our upper bodies. A flat barbell bench is not a very natural movement. And there isn't a whole lot of things that we can do just with our upper bodies. Meanwhile, standing, walking, going up the stairs, tripping, catching yourself, lifting heavy stuff. These are all normal things that we more than likely have to do in our daily lives. And it's a lot easier to do all of these with a strong set of legs. And once again, I hope I don't have to keep repeating this, but if you're an athlete, this is paramount. This is your base. This is everything. And number 5 is that having big legs is a gigantic flex. Yes. It's not the same as training chest, training arms, training shoulders, all of that. It hurts every single time you do it, and it's a full body ache. You're out of breath, you feel like you're gonna throw up. It's not an enjoyable experience. And if someone is willing to go through that every single week, sometimes multiple times a week, that just says something about that person's character or their overall psyche. All right, now let's cover some guidelines for training legs. Number 1 is that doing legs is hard, and it should be hard, meaning that you need a decent amount of rest in between sets. If you don't need a big rest, then you're not training hard enough. When you train hard, you get tired. When you get tired, you need longer rest. This is pretty simple and straightforward, but I still see a lot of people not understanding that. Number 2, once again, training legs is hard, and it should be hard. And your sets should be relatively short. If you're doing these huge sets that take like a minute or 2, clearly going over that 30 rep range, then you are turning that particular set into more of a conditioning piece as opposed to a hypertrophy set. Okay, so know the difference. Just because you're sore the next day doesn't really mean that you put in the best work that you could have. If you want to grow legs, oftentimes your sets will be heavy, they will be relatively short, and you're going to be looking at that 15 to 20 rep range. Sometimes you can go up, but I do recommend some of your training is in the lower rep range. If you're still focused on hypertrophy, 8 to 12 is the sweet spot. Number 3, once again, training legs is hard, and it should be hard. So you need a decent amount of time in between sessions. We talked about rest. We talked about the length of the sets. Now we're talking about the rest in between sessions. So hitting legs once a week is enough to maintain size and maintain strength. Hitting legs twice a week is sort of the sweet spot for hypertrophy. If you really need to put on size, if you're really willing to work really hard at this and really focus on this, you can go 3 times a week. You need to be somewhat of a highly trained individual in order to sustain this and actually get some productive results from it, but it can be done for sure. Don't think that you need to train 3 or 4 times a week in order to do the best that you can do. It is perfectly normal for you to not be able to tolerate more than 2 really tough sessions a week. Number 4, you do not need to hit every single part of your legs on every single training session, okay? It is okay to prioritize. It is okay to periodize your training. If you're doing squats, then you're doing leg extensions, then you're doing RDLs, then you're doing hamstring curls, and then you're doing calves, that is a lot to fit into one session. I can almost assure you that the quality on the last few sets, on the 3rd movement, on the 4th movement, on the 5th movement, is probably not gonna be there, okay? You are simply gonna be too depleted to actually try hard and to actually provide the muscle with the best stimulus that you can. It is perfectly fine to have a leg day that is like 2 to 3 movements with 2 to 4 sets for each movement. You know, if you're truly pushing those sets really, really hard, that might be all you can tolerate, and that is perfectly fine. If you want to get technical, yes, you are probably not hitting every single head on the quads and every single head on the hamstrings in the most ideal way. But listen, you are still providing your overall legs with a good stimulus. All you need is some quad bias movements and some hamstring bias movements, maybe some glute as well. You can structure a training block like that and then just wait until the next month to switch it around and provide the other heads with the proper stimulus that you know you need. That is the magic of prioritizing, and that is the magic of periodization. And you can also do calves on non-leg days. You know, they're not that big, they're not that complicated. Just throw them in the top of your workout. It'll be fine, I promise. Once again, training legs is hard, and it should be hard. And if you're truly trying to grow them, you need to provide the body with a surplus of all the nutrients and all the substrates that it needs to grow and plenty of rest. Training legs is a very, very globally demanding task. Your entire body and CNS is gonna suffer, okay? Give your body what it needs. Lastly, I'm gonna tell you guys how I grew my legs and what I do in order to train legs. Now, I might be a little bit different than the norm because I have never taken bodybuilding or hypertrophy training seriously. I've been an athlete for the past like 20 years of my life. I played competitive sports for like 15 years, but it was always rugby. I always played rugby. And all of my strength training was geared towards rugby. Now, I was lucky enough to, like early on in my youth, when I was like 14, I met the guys that ran like the small weightlifting club at one of the universities back where I lived in Chile. And those are the guys that I trained with. You know, and they were Olympic weightlifters. They squatted every single day. So I squatted quite a bit. Not every single day because I still had rugby practice, but I squatted quite a bit throughout all of my life. I've always squatted full depth, full range of motion, and decently heavy. I've always been focused on that essentially 5 to 8 rep range. And I can tell you from personal experience that training legs is something that you need to do on a weekly basis, you know, and it doesn't have to be that hard. It doesn't have to be that demanding. If you're an athlete involved in a competition schedule, all you need is 1 day a week, and you need to lift somewhat heavy, okay? You can do 4x2s, 5x2s, something like that. If you get really used to it, maybe 8x2s, around 80%. No more than that, okay? The goal is to remain athletic and remain strong, okay? Strength work is what allows you to remain fast and explosive during the season. Don't disregard it. I did that during college. You know, we didn't have a strength and conditioning program. We didn't have a strength and conditioning coach. Everybody just did whatever. That's just how rugby was. Very stupid. Don't do that, all right? Now, over the last few years, I've been pretty much just training in the gym, okay? And my legs have grown quite a bit. I went through several Olympic weightlifting training blocks where I was literally squatting every single day. And that's definitely helped the growth of my legs. And now I just get to like sit back a little bit and relax because I've put in years of really, really hard work on my lower body. And that's where I'm at, you know? Like I've been lucky enough that I've been involved in like the gym and I've been training for a lot of years at this point, you know? At one point there, I did get I got a little chubby, I got a little flabby, but we're working back on that and trying to like cut some weight. But I got fucking strong, but you know, it's sometimes not worth it if it comes with hypertension. All right, and that's the video. As always, thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you got something useful out of this video. If you're interested in learning about training, and if you want to avoid some of the stupid shit that I've done in the past, you can sign up below for a training guide. It's just 10 emails over the course of 10 days. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You can unsubscribe whenever you want to. So check it out. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. All right, bye.
It is important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements, and the other nations will help you become whole.